Now it's time to play with basic shapes in Illustrator. Let's open up a new file and see how it goes. All right. So when you get to the new dialog box, I wanted to show you this too. When you click on new file, you get this, uh, you know, little opening screen where you can select the type of file you want. There are a lot of presets here based on your settings. So you've got saved, mobile, web, print, film, video, art, illustration, some presets that are really nice and useful. Another thing you want to pay attention to is your dimensions. Do you like using pixels, points, picas, inches? Oh my. For me, inches is where it's at. I tried to learn the metric system when I was a kid, didn't stick. So for me, inches is all the way. I got 8.5 by 11. Color mode is important. Typically, when working in Illustrator, I keep my color mode at CMYK. Unless I'm doing something specifically for the web, I'll switch it to RGB. And then last but not least, you can say raster effects, leave it on the default at 300. All right, so then create your file and you're ready to go. When talking about shapes, what we're doing is adjusting and creating objects from the basic shape menu. And there's a lot of, common shapes we use as building blocks for everything else. So when you click on one of these shapes from the toolbar, remember, when you press with your mouse on a tool on the toolbar, it will expand and give you these other shapes. I click on the rectangle tool, I move over, and I should have a little, tick mark in the middle that shows where my cursor is. If I just click and drag, I drag sideways that object onto my page. By default, it doesn't look like much because it's filled with white and it hasn't a black outline. If I want to change that color, I have a lot of different places to go to change my color. I can click the little drop down at the top. I can click the fill box on the properties dialog box. I can even double click the fill box on my toolbar. Pick a color, let it go, happy to go. Another thing about shapes, as you're working with shapes, is you can make adjustments. When you're using the selection tool, you can adjust that shape to different sizes. Now let's go back to the shape tool itself. Let's say I want to draw a rounded rectangle. I'm going to switch to the rounded rectangle. I'm going to go over here to my page, but instead of just dragging sideways, I'm going to hold either Option or Alt if you're on a PC, and then while holding that key, drag my mouse. You see how that's different? That makes a shape from its middle, draws it out from the center. I'm going to hit undo and try that again. This time, I'm going to hold Option on my Mac, Alt on your PC, press the keyboard, and I'm going to start dragging, and then I'm going to press, while holding Alt Option, I'm going to press Shift. And look what that does for me. That forces that object to be proportional. So if you want to draw a perfect circle, perfect square, hold that Option and Shift key, and you'll get that object at that size. All right, I'm going to hit delete, let those go away. Moving down the shape tools, I've also got ellipse. So just like before, if I hold Option, drag it from the middle, hold Shift, I get a perfect circle, right? That's good. But if I don't press those buttons, I get an object that can be elongated, made into an ellipse. Perfect. I'll go ahead and select those and delete them. Moving on, I've got the Polygon tool. And here's something new that Illustrator does in the latest edition, which I really like. Way easier than it used to be. Let me explain. When I click and drag and draw that object, I'm going to move it back onto the center of my page here. It's possible to change the number of sides that these types of objects have. Now, it's not easy to see, but if you're looking at the object bounding box, that's this blue box that goes around the edges of the shape. There are corner pieces that you can highlight and allow you to scale the object, right? Also, if you hover your cursor in different spots, you might get a rotate. But what I'm looking for is this new thing. I'm looking for this little white button on the edge. And when I hover my cursor over it, it has a plus or a minus. Well, what does that do? That means if I drag inward or outward, it adds sides to that object. Pretty cool. So I drag backward and forward, and I can change the number of sides. This wasn't possible before. I'm glad they added it. So the same is true when you use the star tool. When you draw a star, you move that slider up and down, and you can increase the number of points to your star. Also, Illustrator has another control, and it's very, very subtle. Look for the white circle on the tip of one of the star points. You can drag that in and out, stretching the size of that star. Also, on the inside, there's another white dial that you can move inward and outward, changing the diameter of the inner part of that star. Now that's cool. That wasn't possible before. That makes things a lot handier. Now I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm going to go back to drawing a square. I'm going to draw that square. And I want you to look a little closer at the corners. There are little white circles at every corner. Those are rounding buttons. If you hover your cursor there, you can drag and round the corners of your object. All right, so that's pretty handy. There's another way to interact with drawing shapes on your page. And when you have the shape selected, look at the little, pop-up tells you what it does. That's cool. Another way to create objects on a page is actually just to move your cursor over to the middle of the page and just tap. And that pulls up a little dialog box where, based on your units of measure, you can actually type in the exact size. So let's say I want this square to be 5 by 5. Hit OK. Bam. Zoom out a little bit. Now I've got this square that is 5 inches by 5 inches. Now that's important, especially in Illustrator. A lot of times you're working with files where you need to have a very specific measurement. And so you've got control over those measurements by creating that shape at that exact size. All right. So next step, we'll get to soon.